You are Locked On Rays, your daily Tampa Bay Rays podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, my name is Kevin Weiss.
I'm Ulises, Sambrano,
host of Locked On Rays, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. And remember, Locked On Rays is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube at Locked On Rays. Also, remember to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Rays, and you can email us lockedonrays@gmail.com. This episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Remember to download that app and check it out. That is Spotify Green Room. Okay, Ulises, we continue. We roll along with our player reviews. And today we have another reliever. Yesterday we had Pete Fairbanks, and today we have JP Feyereisen. Jonathan Paul Feyereisen.
That's a strong name, by the way.
Yes,
Jonathan
it is.
Paul Feyereisen. My goodness.
A lot of syllables.
A lot of syllables. It also looks like a prime minister name. You know, Jonathan Paul Feyereisen.
I could see that.
Prime minister. Look, this is a guy that overall did well with the Rays.
Yes.
Wasn't even on the radar of Rays fans. Let's remember how he came to the Rays on that Willy Adames trade in late May. That came out of nowhere. But he did his part. Let's look at the big picture here. He had almost 37 innings with the Rays, 36 and 2/3, an ERA of 2.45. In those 36 and 2/3 innings, he had 33 strikeouts, walk rate of 14%, K rate of 21%, a whip of 131, and F WAR, so Fangraphs WAR, drumroll please, 0.2. Do you have the BRF?
Yeah, 0.9.
Look at that. So that's 0.3 more. So that's what, 0.5-ish? Okay.
Give or take.
Yeah. Okay. So those are the big, highlights of JP Feyereisen. He's working with that four-seam fastball. He's got that slider and that changeup. If we look at that first big positive for me, Kevin, that four-seam fastball plays versus all hitters, righties or lefties, they all hit 167 off that fastball, that four-seam. They slugged 286 only on it. So that fastball, it's the invisible Colin Poche kind of fastball. It just gets there. And I don't know if it's the plane, I don't know if it's the arm release, the spin, but there's something about that fastball because it's only sitting at 93, 94. Sometimes it can jump up a little bit, but when it's sitting at 94 and people are just whiffing at it and not hitting for power on it, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is interesting because he does, in order for it to be effective, he does have to work that thing to the very top of the zone. And from what I've heard him explain why it does play, why it has so much carry, why it has that illusion of rising is because, like we talked about with Pete Fairbanks yesterday, but this is sort of something that JP does deliberately, is he falls off the first base side and it allows him to get his spine and arm angle in the exact same spot. I love how you mentioned the fastball. And again, it's all about guys throwing 97, 98, 99, but JP's a guy that shows if you just have really good shape to your fastball, you don't have to be a flamethrower necessarily. And here's the fun thing about JP Feyereisen. Reliever, he's really, in essence, a one-inning reliever with 3 pitches. Yeah. How many relievers? Everybody these days is a power fastball, power slider guy. But he actually has 3 pitches with the fastball, with the slider, and with the changeup that move in all different directions. Fastball top of the zone, slider moving away from the righties, changeup moving into the righties, keeping hitters honest and off balance. And I think the percentages, he uses the fastball about 52% of the time, slider 29% of the time, changeup 20% of the time. I don't know if that equals out to 100 necessarily, but you get the point.
101, but
okay.
Yeah, you get tick below.
There's a lot of points and, 51. I just rounded up a little bit, but you get the idea of It's not like, oh, he's throwing the fastball 70% of the time and the slider 25% of the time and the changeup 5% of the time. Like, he actually has a pretty solid pitch mix there.
Yeah, the pitch mix is exactly what I want to hone in on. If the four-seam plays, the changeup had even better results, Ken, than his the four-seam fastball. So it'll be interesting to see how he can evolve in 2022. If you bought yourself a JP Feyereisen t-shirt after May, guess what? You're going to use it. This guy kind of etched himself a role in that bullpen. I want to go further on what makes him a good one, a positive piece in that bullpen. And it's against righties, just like we talked about Pete Fairbanks yesterday with the splits. Look at these splits against righties. 22 2/3. Only had 12 hits allowed, 12 walks, 23 K, so almost basically one per inning, and a 1.06 WHIP. That plays.
Yeah.
And that plays not in the 6th or 7th inning, Kevin. That plays in the 8th and 9th inning when you can have a guy that's shutting down innings like that. So he, in certain points, when he is used to his maximum strengths, he can be a very powerful weapon in that bullpen.
And this is something we'll get to, one of his bugaboos when we talk about what are the drawbacks and what went wrong with JP this season. The walks, of course, but I will note that from September 25th to October 11th, a 28-batter span, he went without allowing a walk. Moreover, he generated a 1.08 ERA, 0.96 WHIP, 10.8 strikeout per 9 and 3 holds over the 8 1/3 innings covering his last 7 appearances of the regular season. And Ulises, you mentioned it at the top of the program. Him coming over from Milwaukee in the Willy Adames trade, along with Drew Rasmussen, and let's not forget Trevor Richards, also went from Tampa Bay to Milwaukee. But it seemed like Drew and JP found a role, settled in relatively quickly, and that was a tough thing to deal with as a Rays fan and a Rays player, probably knowing that the heart and soul of the team, and at times a fan favorite, is leaving the organization. The cornerstone, shortstop, Willy Adames.
Yeah.
But it seemed like he fit into the culture in the clubhouse pretty quickly, and that the noise didn't get to him seemingly.
You know, his first outing, he got a save, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So it was a great way of getting him acclimated to the Rays way. Like, look, you're the new guy. Here you go. Save opportunity. And if I'm not mistaken, it was against the Yankees. I should have looked this up, my bad. But I do think it was against the Yankees, a save opportunity. Look, it sucked to have this trade happen. We all knew that it was going to happen, maybe not that quickly. But once it did, you're right. Raz and JP kind of etched themselves a role. Rasmussen even better, because Rasmussen kind of played himself into being a starter for 2021, the rest of the season. And then 2022, I mean, are we not putting him not even in pencil, but in pen?
Right.
As one of those spots. So, no, good for JP. I think emotionally, I think that's where they proved themselves both to be just above the mark, because just like you mentioned the other day, I know it was a little bit in the facetious side or tongue-in-cheek, but you mentioned, oh, well, Hunter Renfroe, when he sees that Blake Snell video, I mean, what kind of culture, clubhouse response is he going to get? Kind of same thing with JP Feyereisen, right? Like, he was the major leaguer, not Drew, coming there into the clubhouse of the most well-loved guy. And now you're the guy that's replacing the guy that everybody loves. To get over that.
Yeah.
And for his teammates to tell him, yeah, we miss him, but we love you too now. You're our guy now. I think that speaks a lot of the emotional maturity of JP.
Not to go into a whole thing here, but I think that we're learning that deal worked out for both sides. And Willy Adames had a great year with the Brewers. He ended up being basically a 4-WAR player. And I said it, Ulises, Willy Adames would get to 25 home runs at some point in his career, and he did it. He had a 25 homer season. But what I loved about the trade was, this means Wander's getting called up. Everybody everybody that wasn't a Rays fan, and even
okay.
some Rays fans thought, oh, is it Wander time? Idiots! Taylor Walls was more ready at that time. So I just love I don't necessarily love to do the I told you so, but it was one of those moments where it's like, yeah, you guys just clearly aren't following the Rays all that closely.
Yeah,
at that moment.
And that's okay. They've got to do the change ups. Arm side. By the way, last thing I'd like to say on JP on the positive side for now, that change up grip, it's a funky one because the one that he uses is actually used for a lot of pitchers as a cutter.
Yeah.
So it just works at his pitch grip. It just works for him, and it goes arm side. So it's kind of like an opposite of a slider for him.
Right.
So no, that he has very interesting stuff. I think can work.
Yeah.
But just like with Pete, we said yesterday, you just got to put him in the right situation.
This episode is brought to you by Spotify Green Room. Green Room is the first social audio platform made for sports fans. The app is free to download, and once you're in, you can talk with me, Ulises, other fans, athletes, and insiders in real time about your favorite team or sport. So be sure to go download the free Spotify Green Room app right now, currently available on all iOS devices. Be sure to create a profile, link your Twitter, and join the MLB group for the latest league updates. Spotify Green Room, it is changing the way we talk sports. Okay, Ulysses dropped my water there. Oh no, that's not good. Good thing I had the cap on. What went wrong with JP Feyereisen this season with the Rays?
I think it's that W word we're going to have to talk about with relievers. Walks are a problem. His walk percentage was at 14%. I think his walks per nine were close to 6 per nine. It's an ugly problem when you combine it. By the way, 4th percentile in walk rate, according to Baseball Savant. When you add this walk rate issue with JP, with the hard hit percentage being in the 38th percentile, that's not a good combo. You're giving up free base runners, and then they're going to hit the ball hard. You know what happens when hitters hit the ball hard. It's usually a good sign of success for a hitter. You're looking for that. You're not looking for that for a pitcher. So when you combine those two things, you're getting yourself into a lot of trouble. And when is JP Feyereisen being used? Later in the innings and later in the game. So the later innings, 7th, 8th, 9th. So those two components are not a really good solution for the back end of the bullpen.
He definitely struggled to put guys away, or at least he allowed a lot of walks when he got to full counts. 25 walks in full counts, and batters had an 1184 OPS when he got to full count. So he needs to get ahead pretty much all the time. And we talk about him having the 3 pitches, which is great, but I looked at the numbers, and he really only throws the changeup and the slider in the zone about 30% of the time. So those are supposed to be chase pitches. And, it's the other thing with JP too is you mentioned, you combine the walks with him getting hit around a little bit. He is a fly ball pitcher, and he's lucky he's in a Rays uniform. He's lucky he gets to pitch a lot of times at Tropicana Field as opposed to, say, Camden Yards or Great American Ballpark or up in Milwaukee or Yankee Stadium, because he easily, there's a couple balls that might go off the wall at the Trop that go out of the ballpark elsewhere, or they might hit one of the catwalk rings or whatever it may be, and be ruled a double instead of a home run somewhere else.
And that's the issue, Kevin, is where does he play up in the division? Yeah, it's great if he plays most of the games at the Trop, but he'll also go to Camden.
Yeah.
He'll also go to Fenway, and he, of course, goes to Yankee Stadium. So that's an issue. The fly ball aspect, home runs per nine was at .74, so that's almost double what we were praising Pete Fairbanks yesterday.
Yeah.
That's almost double. So it is an issue. I do think, again, putting players in a position to succeed. Let's look at the other side of that split, though, against left-handers.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah. 14 innings pitched, 14 hits allowed, 10 walks. What is going on there? 3 home runs allowed, 10 Ks in those 14 innings, and 1.71 whip.
Yeah.
Putting him against lefties.
And
it's a non-starter.
That comes back to the whole Game 4 ALDS issue of what do you do against Kike Hernandez? Do you walk Kike Hernandez if you're JP Feyereisen to bring up Rafael Devers? So, and now I guess the Rays would have already exhausted, or JP would have exhausted the 3-batter minimum. So you theoretically could have brought in somebody else at that point. But I don't want to get into a whole thing there. But I will say this about
no need for that.
Yeah, I know we're supposed to be peeling back the onion on what went wrong with JP, and a lot of people may go to he gave up the sac fly to Kike Hernandez. The thing unraveled when he came into the 9th inning in a tie ball game 5-5, and the Rays, of course, ultimately lose the game 6-5. But he got hurt by his own teammates. Christian Vasquez, the CNI single that many third basemen, not named Yandy Diaz, probably should have gotten to. I think the exit velocity on that thing was like 70 miles per hour. Like it was like a slow motion dive from Yandy trying to get to that ball, and he totally whiffs on it.
Wait, you say many third basemen. Do you think the Rays had a all-star Gold Glover at third base that they could have used in that situation? I don't know if there was one. Mendel? Oh, no, wait.
Yeah.
Joey Wendell.
Joey Wendell, or you could have had Taylor Walls as another guy that you added to the roster as a late inning defensive replacement. So in continuing that sequence, Christian Arroyo lays down a perfect sac bunt.
Perfect.
And then Yandy Diaz's number is called again. He can't connect on the dribbler, and him and G-Man Choi have the mess up there, and then that brings up Kike Hernandez. So it was like JP probably had to feel like the loneliest guy on the team after that, but you also have to realize, like, man, it wasn't – JP kind of did his job in allowing some weak grounders to the pull side.
A guy who's not a ground ball pitcher, by the way.
Yeah.
Do you think that Rays Nation has blamed JP for what happened? I would really like them not to, because just like you said, I mean, there's just not an argument for that.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to go back on anti-social media and see what people have said or haven't said, but I'm sure that's kind of the low-hanging fruit of who's on the mound there. I think in people's mind, they look at
who's the loser, who's the losing pitcher.
Exactly. They look at that and who was pitching to Kike Hernandez in that moment, and that was JP Feyereisen.
If anybody has done it, that's unfair to JP, and I know we're supposed to be highlighting the negatives right now, but that's, again, if we shift over to the big negatives, hard hit percentage on my part, combining with the walks, not good. That split against left-handers, no bueno, as a friend of mine would say, no bueno. I know and I understand that the 3-batter minimum, you can make the argument like, oh, well, you can use them where you want all the time.
Right.
And I get that. But I think Neil Solondz actually did a study about it before the 2020 season. And he said that had only happened 5% of the time where a Rays pitching change would have been affected by that, 5%. So what's the margin of error between 2019 to 2020 to 2021? 2%, 5% at the most. So again, it's not really a strong argument that, oh, well, it's because of the 3-batter minimum that he's getting affected into not pitching only against rivals.
Couple stats here before Ulises has to hit a home run on the Built Bar live read. JP allowed 13% of his balls in play to be barrels. League average barrel percent is 7%. Based on launch angle, he's a fly ball pitcher, of course, inducing fly balls or line drives on 67.7% of balls in play. and he threw 41.3% of his pitches in the zone. League average is 49.9%. I'll also say this. Now, walks are definitely a problem, and not saying this was always the case, but there were a couple occasions where he got squeezed by the umpire, particularly on the fastball. But again, I think everybody knows that he's trying to ride that fastball up in the zone, and he might catch a bottom corner of the plate or the zone where Zunino has to move his glove. And technically, it still probably is in the zone, but the umpire doesn't give him the benefit of the doubt. So I'll just throw that out there. Plus, one more kind of drawback on Feyereisen. He missed a month plus in late July through all of August due to shoulder discomfort and biceps tendonitis. So maybe a Built Bar, get that protein going. I know Built Bars can help the biceps for sure. I've seen that firsthand. Ulises has got the guns going right now.
Well, you know what, Kevin? It's the time of the year for Built Bars. You know what? Mm-hmm. Because Thanksgiving is approaching. All of the good food and treats, and plenty of them. You can add Built Bar to that. It's the perfect time. It's the holiday dessert, people. Feast on something delicious and feel good about it. One slice of pie has upwards of 300 calories, and that's on the low end. Most Built Bars are only 130 calories and only 4 grams of sugar with plenty of protein. Replace the coconut cream pie with coconut Built Bars, or go a raspberry Built Bar instead of the raspberry pie. Lots of good flavors to replace any pie, Kevin. Low calorie, low carb, low fat, high protein. Are you a pie guy?
I am not a pumpkin pie guy, but I do like the fruit pies. Apple, blueberry, so on and so forth.
Well, they've got blueberry Built Bars right now. So
what?
You can go get yourself some of those. And besides, they're always covered in 100% real chocolate. Built Bar is a great option for when you're hungry. If Thanksgiving isn't coming soon enough, go for a Built Bar or two. So remember, go to built.com, use promo code LOCKED15, and you will get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED, LOCKED 15 for 15% off at built.com.
BetOnline is back and better than ever before. A new web interface for the start of the basketball season and more props, odds, and lines than ever before. Head over to their new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use the promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, to receive that bonus. That's LOCKEDON. In fact, what I usually do is, as I'm making my bets on BetOnline, I usually have a Built Bar in one hand. So I'm chewing on a Built Bar and making bets. I mean, we're living in America, betting and eating snacks.
Let's go.
From my laptop. BetOnline, it's the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports. And it's where the game starts. Okay, Ulises, looking at JP Feyereisen's future with the team. According to, I'm a baseball reference man first and foremost, it says that he is arbitration eligible in 2024 and will be a free agent in 2027. So a cheap reliever, that is something that the Rays love. So I would bet some green Skittles that JP will be on the Rays roster in 2022. And it's really just about what kind of role they're going to carve out for him. Is he going to be 6th and 7th inning guy? Is he going to get some 8th inning work? Will he get some save opportunities in the 9th inning? I consider him more of a medium leverage to high leverage, as opposed, I don't get that. I don't know. Maybe I get picky sometimes, and maybe it's some bias from AL or whatever it may be, but I don't look in a one-run game leading by 1. It's the 9th inning, and you bring in Feyereisen in the 9th. I don't necessarily get, we got this. We're closing this out. I don't necessarily get that vibe or that feel as of yet. Anyway, not to say he can't get to that point, but as of right now, I don't feel that.
There's a lot of potential in this bullpen. We talked about it with Fairbanks. He could reach that. Feyereisen could reach that. Chagua could reach that. We talk about that. They all can become that kind of guy. We saw it from Kittredge this year. We saw it from McHugh this year. But Kevin, when you look at 2022 and the bullpen, or at least, this would be a good Twitter question. As a Rays fan, what is the biggest need? A rotation arm, full well knowing it'll be a Walker type. Don't tell me Justin Verlander, people. Come on. Don't tell me Max Scherzer. Come on. Don't.
Robbie Ray.
Yeah. Oh, Lucas Giolito. We're going to trick for Lucas Giolito. Stop. It's going to be a Walker type. Okay?
Yeah.
What's more important, a Walker type or a guy you mentioned yesterday, Reliably? Where do you? For me, fix the bullpen. The bullpen should be priority.
Yeah.
A1 sauce, and then you go down the list to A29, and then you're like, oh, still the bullpen.
Yeah.
Give me bullpen pieces. I need more bullpen security because all of these guys have shown glimpses of the potential, but we've talked about how relievers are just so volatile, Kevin. If they're so volatile, could you put green Skittles or a peanut butter Built Bar on Kittredge being an all-star again? Or on Kittredge being a guy that you can just give the ball and close your eyes and know that it's a safe situation?
There's a lot of guys that can have one good year.
There's a lot of guys that can have a good year, especially bullpen guys. So that should be the focus right now.
And we're getting to a point where bullpens are throwing more innings than the starters. And you talk about adding a Waka-esque type. I mean, you can sort of do that from within with Josh Fleming and Ryan Yarbrough and Romero and some of the guys that are Dietrich Anza. Who's to say that he can't step into that Waka role? So if you're able to, and you have the funds to get an Iglesias, like a real legit a guy who has consistently performed as a back end of the bullpen type, pull the string, pull the trigger on that, especially knowing that Nick Anderson is going to be out. And who knows? I mean, that we saw how many pitchers hit the injured list. It could very similar. This pandemic thing, what happened in 2020 might not just affect what 2021. It could have lingering effects into 2022 and 2023 and beyond. So I'm on board with that as far as what you said there.
And I know Zunino, they should be picking up that $7 million option very soon. And KK apparently had some surgery on his right knee. He should be fine by spring training. But those two, there's not a lot of money in the books. So I don't know what Raisel is going to be asking for, but I mean, how cheap do you need to be, my man? I mean, like, what are we talking about? I mean, can you?
You gotta save up for a new ballpark. That's what you have to do there.
Or for litigation for attack acts.
Perhaps that too. I thought this is a player review episode of JP Feyereisen. Let's give JP some kudos here, making it to the majors and doing well in the majors as a 16th round draft pick and a man of the people. When he was in the minor leagues, he drove Uber.
Ooh, that's right.
Actually, when he was with the Tampa Yankees, Tampa Tarpons, I'm sorry. No, it might have been the Tampa Yankees back then when he was still playing for them before the trade to another organization there. So, and I've made this joke before, but JP to me, and maybe this is just I can spot a guy from the Midwest from millions of miles away, but you could have a Lightning game, a Bucks game, even a Rays game, and he could show up in a t-shirt, cargo shorts, sit in the stands, and he would blend into the crowd. Nobody would recognize him, I don't think, as this guy's an athlete. He's a pro athlete. Like he just looks like a big dude from the Midwest. That's it. That drinks a lot of beer.
You know why? It's because the facial hair.
Yeah.
He actually has done something that's very difficult, Kevin, and I know it personally, and you know it personally on the other side. We're on the 180. It's either a beard or no beard.
Yeah.
JP can just chameleon it. For 2 weeks, he'll have a full beard. For another week, he'll just have sideburns. For another week, he's goatee. He does it all. So, no, really.
He's got a lot of time on his hands when you're a reliever, only pitching one inning every couple of days. You got a lot of downtime. Enough time to drive Uber, apparently.
Well, enough time to know that he was successful overall in 2021. Hopefully the adjustments, the pitch mix can be
Yeah.
a little bit better. If this were me, I would like to see him maybe increase the fastball usage and the changeup, and then just go down on the slider a little bit. I would like to see that being tried. Maybe I'm completely off on this, but if the changeup, and again, you said the good thing about the changeup not being located enough in the strike zone, hopefully that can improve within a year in the Rays system. But no, I think he's going to be a positive in the future. I don't think we have seen him at his best, like any of these relievers that we've talked about so far in the player reviews. They've got the potential, but can they put it all together?
That is true. Okay. Sharpie time. Grade for JP Feyereisen. I am going to give him a solid B, 86.
Look at that.
That's what I'm giving JP.
Good for you. I gave him an 83.
Okay.
So what is that? A lower B minus, like a high B minus to almost a B?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 83.
Okay. Just some over-unders here. Fangraph Steamer projections. Over-under 54 innings next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
Under.
They have his ERA. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah, the FIP.
The FIP was a bad one, too. It was close to 5.
4.49 ERA projected for next season.
No, because he's going to listen to the pod and he's
Yeah.
going to be like, Ulises is right. He needs to. I need to use more of the changeup, and I need to use more of my four seam. Boom. Lower than that.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that. Okay. That is our player review for JP Feyereisen. I think tomorrow we have Josh Fleming, if I'm not mistaken.
Right? Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
And then Friday we might have to take a break from the player reviews. You stole my topics there, mentioning KK and Zanino and
the attack ad.
Everything. Plus we have baseball trivia, a lot of things going on for sure. And we didn't even mention this. We went the whole episode without mentioning the fact that the Braves won the World Series.
Oh, that happened.
Yeah, I guess that did happen.
That's great. Hey, good job to all of you Atlanta fans. Good job. It must feel awesome. I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
But it must be nice.
We know what it's like to get to Game 6.
That's true.
That's about the closest. I mean, that is the closest that the Rays have gotten so far.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you again for making the Locked On Rays podcast your first listen every day. Now make your second listen the Locked On MLB podcast. That is also free and available on all platforms. Have a great day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.